In this video, I'll uncover whether or not it's actually healthy to eat rice and some of the issues that surround rice consumption. Rice is a truly interesting topic once you really dive into it. And the reason for that is because there's a big part of the health community that believes it's a health food. And then on the other side of the coin, there's the health community like the keto, paleo, low carb community that says you need to avoid this stuff. Now, it's really interesting because that puts you in the middle going, well, what do I do? So in this video, we're going to figure that out. And we're also going to talk about the difference between white rice and brown rice, how you need to prepare rice in order for it to be the healthiest. And then of course, the healthiest rice that you should choose if that's something you're going to add into your diet. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Zarowski. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. Be sure to join our notification community, and that way I'm going to help you excel your health and your life. Let's go ahead and dive right in. And my first question to you is, do you eat rice? Okay, because the thing is, and you can put that in the comment section here below, the thing is that a lot of people find that rice is a health food for them. And a lot of people are consuming rice and they don't even know it, because you're thinking, well, no, I don't eat rice. I don't go to a restaurant and order it. I don't cook it in my home. But a lot of people are eating what they would consider health foods that have a lot of rice in them. And so let's talk about this. Rice flours. When you look at a lot of snack foods that are considered healthy, when you look at gluten-free flours, most of them actually have a rice flour in them. Rice crackers are another big one. Rice cereal, okay, once again, this is why they give it to kids. It's considered that healthier option. And then the question is it actually healthier? And then rice milk, and then rice syrup. Now, the other thing a lot of people eat in the health community is going to be the rice cakes. And so a lot of these different components are found in your typical health food. So we have to make sure that if we think we're not eating rice, that we truly know, and we're actually reading the ingredient labels on the things that we're eating to know whether it actually has components or rice itself within it. Let's go ahead and talk about which is better. Okay, this is a big question we get in our community. Which is better, brown rice versus white rice? I'm going to break it down, and then we're going to kind of further discuss some of the different things that we need to understand about it. First of all, when we look at white rice, it's stripped of something called the bran and the germ. As a result of that being stripped from it, essentially what it's going to do is it's going to lack the vitamins and minerals in it. And now the other thing that you're going to find about white rice is that it's going to have a really high glycemic index, okay? I shouldn't say really high. It's going to have a moderately high glycemic index of 64. Now, essentially what this means when it has a glycemic index that's moderately high, it means that it's going to be converted to sugar quite rapidly in your body, and it's going to spike your blood sugar, okay? This is something we want to avoid if we want to avoid metabolic syndrome, we want to avoid diabetes, insulin resistance. We don't ever want to be eating a bunch of foods that spike our blood sugar. But let's move on from that and let's talk about brown rice, because this is the healthier option, right? You go out to a restaurant and you say, you know what, I'm going to splurge a little bit. I'm going to get some rice, and they say white rice, brown rice, and you say, well, you know what, I'm going to make the healthier option today, and I'm going to make the healthier choice, and I'm going to choose the brown rice. But let's look a little bit closer. So the brown rice, yes, it's better because it has the vitamins and minerals in it. It's going to have that because it doesn't have it stripped from it. It also is going to have the fiber-rich bran. It also is going to have a little bit of a lower glycemic index, okay? So we're going from that moderate high to more moderate glycemic index, so it's going to be a little bit better in that way. But there's another problem that comes to the table, and that is that brown rice is high in arsenic, okay? When we look at arsenic, it's one of the most toxic substances on earth. It's not something that we want in our body. So now we have this issue. We have white rice and brown rice. What do we do here? So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit further. I want to break down the glycemic index thing and talk about how that's related to diabetes, and then also talk about arsenic itself. Let's first start with arsenic, okay? Because these are some of the problems surrounding rice that you might not be aware of. First of all, organic versus inorganic. Now, when we look at arsenic in general, there's those two types there. Now, when it comes to like where I live, for instance, we have a lot of arsenic in the ground, so much so that we can't use our water from our well to drink because we don't want that in our food. We can't cook with it, nothing. So we have to have a very robust water filtration system in our house in order to actually use the water. So this is something that's naturally occurring within the ground. Now, one of the things about arsenic is it's estimated that there's a lot more inorganic arsenic within the ground because of all the pesticides that's used on the crops and a lot of the different environmental pollution that's going on today. And so we have to make sure that we're avoiding arsenic because it's something that's related to heart disease, cancer, and it's, like I said, it's a very toxic substance. So that's high in brown rice like we talked about. So rice is the biggest food source of arsenic. So there's a lot of different foods that are going to have some arsenic, but rice is one of the biggest. Here's why, is because rice is grown in very wet, marshy environments. And the other thing about the rice is that it just has an affinity to getting that arsenic and just sucking it right up. Now, when we look at rice, the brown rice has higher arsenic levels. Why is this? Because the rice will actually store all that arsenic in the bran. And so when we look at brown rice, they leave that bran in there. When we take white rice, they strip it out. So then we're left with this convoluted topic. Well, okay, well, which one is better then, brown or white? Let's keep moving and we're gonna get to the bottom of that. I wanna talk about diabetes because I think this is interesting. When we talk about glycemic index as a food being very high, the first thing you might go, well, geez, this is gonna cause insulin resistance. This is gonna cause diabetes. Let's take a look at some of the research like I did and see what we can really come to the conclusion on here. So 350,000 people were looked at when we talk about this particular test, and what they found is that white rice increases the risk of diabetes. Okay, there was another study where they took rice and linked it to metabolic syndrome. So this is an interesting topic because one of the things I went to right away is go, okay, well, what are the populations in the world that consume the most rice? So first of all, we have to look at China. China is the population that consumes the most rice. Okay, when we look at the Chinese diabetic and pre-diabetic statistics, they're pretty much the same as what they are in the US, actually just a little bit less. Now, this is interesting because when you look at their statistics, they've risen very much over the past 10, 20 years, just like it has in the United States. One of the things that's very interesting about that is that the Chinese have been eating rice for thousands of years at this point. This is nothing new to them. So I think it's really unfair to say that rice is actually causing diabetics in certain populations that are eating rice, a whole bunch of rice, okay? And the reason for that is because they didn't have all these diabetes issues before, but now they do. And when we look at this whole situation, I've heard people say that multiple times. Oh yeah, the Chinese have a lot of problems with pre-diabetes and diabetes because they eat so much rice. And I don't think that that's true, and I don't think that's a fair conclusion to make. Now, one of the other things we want to look at here when we talk about diabetes and rice consumption is that there's a very high chance that the same people who are eating a whole bunch more rice are also eating a lot of other junk foods, right? Processed foods, a lot of grains, a lot of sugary sodas, that sort of thing. And the same people who go, well, you know what, I'm not going to consume as much rice. It's going to be something that I eat very little in my diet. They're also probably not eating a whole bunch of processed foods, sugary sodas, grains, and other junk foods. So we have to realize too, when we look at that whole thing around rice and diabetes, I bet that the people who are eating a lot more rice are also making a lot worse lifestyle choices in general. So we have to take that into consideration as well. Now, when we look at the research regarding rice and weight gain, there's really not a high correlation of the more rice you consume, the more weight you'll gain. And so that's something that a lot of people ask, is it going to cause me to get fat? It's not a good food to eat in general on a regular basis, but it's something that the research really doesn't point to rice causing weight gain. Let's go ahead and talk about the best way, the best methods to actually consume rice if it's something that you're going to consume. Now, here's the thing. First, I want to point out that I don't think that rice should be a part of your daily diet. I don't think it's a health food, for instance. But the thing is if you're going to consume it here and there, here's some of the best methods that you'll use. Now, first of all, we want to wash it and we want to cook it in excess water. Now, the reason that we want to wash it and cook it in excess water is because we want to always work to lower that arsenic content. So basically what the research found is that if you wash it, you cook it in excess water, essentially what you're going to be able to do is lower the arsenic content by 50 to 60%, which is huge. Now, when we talk about cooking it in excess water, essentially what that means is that you're going to put the rice in a pot and put a lot of water in it. Now, typically when you cook rice, you just put the amount of water needed, right? They might say for this much rice, you just need 2 cups of water. Well, with this, essentially you're going to put that rice in and just put it in a big pot of water, almost like you're cooking like a pasta, for instance. And then you're going to cook it that way, and it's going to help get a lot of the arsenic out of it. It's going to boil it out of it. Now, the other thing that we want to talk about are some of the different rices that you can have that are going to be the best for you when it comes to low arsenic content. It's estimated that basmati and or jasmine are going to be the best options for getting a low arsenic rice. Now, another thing we want to mention is phytic acid. Okay, this is a big problem when it comes to rice. Brown rice is high in phytic acid. This is an anti-nutrient that basically means, well, even though brown rice has those nutrients in it, the phytic acid is going to block the nutrient bioavailability, so you're really not getting it. Now, when we look at the phytic acid, there's some things that we can do in order to help get it out of it. So first of all, we can get a sprouted rice, and when we get a sprouted rice or a germinated rice, it's essentially going to help get some of that phytic acid out so you're able to absorb the nutrients better. So when we look at consuming rice, like I said, I don't think that rice is something that is healthy to consume on a regular basis, but if you're going to splurge or you are going to consume more rice, this is kind of the scope in which you should look to it as. We want to make sure it's organic. We want to make sure it's sprouted or germinated, and we also want to make sure that it is cooked properly so that we can reduce the arsenic content in it. Okay, and what I'll do too is I'll try to find a rice that's a good healthy one, put it in the link in the description below. That wraps up this video. Be sure to share this video with your friends so that you can improve their rice IQ, and also give this video a thumbs up. I'd greatly appreciate it. Any questions you have, put in the comment section down here below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about exercise, nutrition, reversing health conditions, weight loss, the ketogenic diet, fasting, you name it, and then hit that bell notification so that you're locked in and get an alert every time a brand new piece of content comes out. Other than that, check out these videos over here that are going to help you improve your health, and I'll see you in the next video.